Sixers tonight, 8 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN, taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Although this isn't really like the Portland Trailblazers. This might be the G League team that they're sending to Philadelphia for this game tonight. They got a bunch of guys sitting out. We go inside the Sixers that we do every day at 3:20 here on the show. Right now, Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer is our Inside the Sixers guest today. What's up, my man? How are you?
What's up? I'm doing well, man. Did you see that Pitt win last night?
I was literally pausing because I was waiting for it. I did.
Okay.
You know, it's funny because they give us the options of games to carry on the weekend, and they moved Pitt to play Virginia. We were going to carry Louisville, Virginia, and I said they're playing Pitt. That's off the air.
hey, you just missed a bad game. You like if I'm the viewers or the listeners, I'm gonna be a little upset with you, man.
Yeah, well, you were in Charlotte last night, right?
Yeah.
So you saw a defensive effort in that first quarter that was just stifling, and it's really something that I think separates them from the other teams in the East, maybe, what they can bring defensively.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at it, and, you know, we all know that Ben Simmons wants to be the defensive player of the year. You know, Joel Embiid is a huge rim protector. And then you bring in, you know, Danny Green. And when Danny Green is on defensively, he gives you a lot, you know, and Matisse comes in there. But it was crazy. I mean, because, you know, you look at Gordon Hayward, you know, he's an all-star candidate. I mean, he looked like he wasn't ready for the moment. And then you look at a couple of the other guys, they were struggling. I mean, I honestly believe that the Sixers were thinking about tonight's game, and they let their foot off the gas, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, let's rest up. Let's just stay healthy and get out of here. But, yeah, in that first quarter, they were destroying them.
Keith, I know you're a guy who's followed this team for a long time. You've seen almost every one of Joel's games. What are you seeing different about this version of Joel Embiid? Is it something he's doing on the court, or is it maybe just more maturity off the court? Like, when you watch what you're seeing, how do you quantify what we're watching from this version of Joel Embiid?
You know, I want to say, you know, it's a little bit of both. But let's start. I think that Joel has realized now that he can do less, like less is more. Because when you look at him, you know, remember in the past, you would go to a game and Joel was trying to get like 30 points at the half, right? And he's like trying extra hard. He's doing everything. Well, right now it looks like he's picking his spots, and he realizes that this is my team. I'm the alpha dog. The ball is going to find me. But at the same time, I'm going to do everything I can to get my teammates involved, because ultimately that's going to give me better shots, you know, things like that. That's what Joel is doing. It's like less is more. But also, I do think that there is a maturity factor in there. And I also think that Joel kind of sort of hit rock bottom last year. And what I mean by that is when he didn't make the all-NBA first, second, or third team, when he didn't make any of the all-defensive teams, he didn't make the all-bubble team, although he was averaging close to 30 points. I think Joel was like, wow, so you mean to tell me the media doesn't think I'm still the same guy? And I think Joel Embiid decided to, like, let's get in shape, let's do everything, and I'm going to come out motivated, trying to prove everyone wrong.
What about Doc's impact in all of this as well? Maybe not just Doc specifically, but the entire coaching staff, who has a great assistant coaching staff as well.
Hey, that's huge. I mean, let's think about it. That's huge. I mean, here's the thing. Like, Mike will tell you, anybody will tell you, here's the thing. Like, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, you know, everyone was writing articles about, can they play together? How much do they get along? Do they like each other? You know, you don't have to like each other. You don't have to hang out with each other to be great teammates. But since Doc has been here, you know, I'm looking at these guys on the sidelines, and they're always in constant communication. In the past, it was two great guys who basically wanted to be the homecoming king. You know what I mean? They both want to be the homecoming king. Right now, it's like these two guys who want to win a championship together, and they know they can. That's coaching. Secondly, you look at the adjustments that are being made. You look at how, you know, I feel like what Doc Rivers is doing is he's playing to his players' strengths, right? Instead of like worrying about the system, he's playing to their strengths. That's why, Tobias Harris is having like an all-star type performance. That's why Ben Simmons is like saying, hey, I'm going to be the best role player out there. You know what I mean? It's like Doc Rivers has all these guys buying in for the team, and he's also having them all play to their strengths.
And one thing, let's take Brett out of the equation and Doc out of the equation. I think if we look back at Brett's tenure, you could say that his staffs were not great. I mean, whether that's his fault or whatever, he just didn't have experienced staffs. And I think that is so not under talked about because people are acknowledging Cassell, Yeager, Burke, Popeye Jones is a guy who played in the league. They have guys now that I think that's a big difference from what Brett – it was almost like Brett was a one-man band trying to do it all himself, and it's like, I got to try to develop this guy and that guy and that guy because I can't trust these other guys because they don't have the voice that maybe I do.
And you're exactly right, and that's not a knock against Brett. There's going to be some people who are going to compare Doc Rivers to Brett or Brett to Doc. You can't do it. Doc Rivers is a coach who's been coaching 20-plus years. I mean, when Brett Brown was getting the job as a coach, there was the Mount Rushmore. Three of the guys on the top was, Doc Rivers, Greg Popovich, and the coach that's coaching the Knicks right now. I forget his name right now, but it was those three guys, right? Thibodeau. Now you look at Sam Cassell as an assistant coach, right? Here's a guy who won 3 rings. He won, 2 with the Houston Rockets. He played with Akeem Olajuwon. He played with some great players. He was on that Boston Celtics team. He coached great guys with the Clippers. And then you have these other coaches like Yeager, who was a head coach at 2 different stops. He coached all NBA type players. And then Dan Burke is a defensive specialist. So when you talk about that staff, it's kind of like it's completely different. And something else that I will add to that is, you look at Doc Rivers, and he's the type of guy. He coached countless Hall of Famers. He played with Hall of Famers. So if from a credibility standpoint, if a guy like Doc Rivers says, you know what, Joel, man, Patrick Ewing used to do this, and you think you're better than Patrick Ewing, you can't do it. Oh, okay, coach, I'm gonna do it. Hey, Ben, do you know what Kevin Garnett and them used to do and things like that? You understand what I'm saying? So Doc Rivers can say, this is what you need to do to be where you want to end up at. And Brett Brown, as an assistant coach, don't get me wrong, he was with the Spurs, but it's different when you're the head coach as opposed to an assistant coach.
Earlier, you mentioned taking the foot off the gas pedal in the second half, and we saw something similar happen against the Lakers. The difference this year is they're actually closing out the games, which is not what they did in years past, but does that concern you at all?
It concerns me a little bit, just a little bit, because, the thing is, it gets to a point where, it seems in both instances, you're up and you may get a little like, yes, we won this thing. And things start to get a little sloppy. And then all of a sudden the team gets fired. And this team, especially last night, it was a prime opportunity for them to, hey, we're going to rest Joel Embiid. We're going to do it. We're going to rest Tobias, and we're going to come back on this back-to-back and then try to give optimal effort. Be well rested. And to me, it's like the team is good, but they can't lose focus right now. They have to play all 48. I know that's a cliche, but they have to play the entire 48 to me when they're out there.
Keith, you travel with the team still. They were not very good on the road last year. They've won 3 in a row on the road now. Is it different playing on the road with no fans, or has this team figured something out, or why do we explain that they are having road success? Is it as simple as, well, there's no fans and it makes it different?
You know what I think is the people who they have on the roster, the new guys, and I'm talking about, let's talk about Dwight Howard. Let's talk about Danny Green. Both, Dwight Howard won his championship last year. Danny Green won 3 of them. They're used to going into hostile environments. They're used to saying, hey, look, this is what we have to do to huddle as a group. It's funny because when they run out on the floor, you'll see Dwight Howard cuffing his ears and like this and doing that. There's no one in the arena, but he's like, he's imagining that people are booing the Sixers and he's clapping like, where's the booze? Where's the booze? So to me, it's like that mentality that these two guys are bringing to whereas, hey, look, it's all about circling the wagons and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I know that you mentioned Howard. I mean, I don't know that we even acknowledge how important that piece has been because that's been a position that's been a mess, and he knows what his role in. I'll play 17 minutes and grab 8 boards and give you a couple dunks. That's what you use me for, and he's happy with that. They haven't had that.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is? Like when Dwight Howard first came on board and he gave his press conference and he was like, yeah, I'm going to be a great teammate, and I love Joel, and I think Ben can do this. And I'm like, come on, brother, like, stop with this. Like, can you just stop it? And then all of a sudden, he keeps it up. And you're like, wow, he really does want to help him. I'm going to say something. This is like the thing that people don't see on television, right? When they're on the road and when they introduce the other team, like I always used to look at the Jumbotron to see like, all the hoopla and all the hype and that. Now I'm looking at Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard goes over to the scorer's table and they have a dribbling competition. I mean, they even do like football passes. They do soccer kicks and everything. And it's like his way of keeping the team loose. Like he is the team leader. Like whenever you listen to him, when they break the huddle, when they're in the locker room and the game is over, Dwight is always the one saying, let's go, let's get it. So, yeah, he's great for the Sixers right now.
Yeah, he's – I mean, you're right. Your eyes are fixated on him when he's on the bench just because he's always pacing up and down and doing stuff. It's definitely a different feel. You would attest to that?
Yeah, 100%. It's like night and day.
It had to be miserable in that bubble.
Say it again?
It had to be miserable in that bubble.
Yeah, they did. I know they did.
You were there, weren't you?
Yeah, it was, well, it's just different. I mean, what it was is I think that it was just a bad mix. It was one of those things where.
And they knew it.
They just didn't have the pieces. You know what I mean? You had a lot of guys who were good players, but they never really won anything. You know what I mean? Or they never like hit rock bottom and had to come back. It was just a lot of guys who made money. And they just didn't mesh well, and the team is like a lot, and that's why, and there's nothing against the former coaching staff or anything like that. But when you look at a guy like Doc Rivers, the way he's able to bring everyone together, like Joel knows, he knows this is his team. He knows that he's not competing with anyone. Ben Simmons has a coach that regardless of what he says behind closed doors to Ben, he's going to bat. He's battling for Ben whenever we ask him questions about him. Tobias has a guy that knows how to bring the best out of him, this and that. And Danny and they're looking at it where you have a coach that says, look, Dwight and Danny, your job is to bring that winning mentality. It's not just on the court. We want you to do stuff off the court. We have a lot of young guys here. That's what we need. And I'm telling you, Doc Rivers has been a blessing for the Sixers right now.
He's Keith Pompey at Pompey on Sixers for more on tonight's game, including all of the Blazers who will not play tonight. He's been our guest for Inside the Sixers, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Good to see you, man. I don't get up there anymore because, we're limited.
Yeah, well, don't worry. You'll be there. You'll be there pretty soon next year when they win. They go far in the playoffs.
All right. We'll see you soon, pal.
All right, man. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Absolutely. We hope to see you again. Keith Pompey, of course, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.